Welcome to this edition of Taking Care of Business. I'm Mary Beth Seawald, President and CEO of the Vegas Chamber. Today, we're bringing you exclusive coverage from one of the most impactful business events in our region, our Business Power Luncheon, featuring special guest, Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo. We were pleased to have this important conversation with Nevada's business and community leaders. Governor Lombardo shared valuable insights on leadership, policy, and his vision for strengthening Nevada's business climate, making this a must-watch conversation for anyone invested in our state's success. It's all coming up next on this edition of Taking Care of Business. So we've had a couple of, little announcements this year. This week, I think last week, the Super Bowl coming in 2029. Yes, Super Bowl. NBA is another one. I mean, it's just another regular day in Las Vegas, right? We get these announcements all the time. I know the Raiders made another announcement this morning. Kirk Cousins is going to be coming to the Raiders. So it seems like, what time is it? And just check what announcement is going to be next. Are you excited about these things?
Well, it is. I mean, now we're known as the entertainment capital. Now let's progress towards the sports capital, right? And why? Why is that important? I'm sure that's part of the question, is because diversifying the economy is important. You've heard me talk about that from day one. It was part of my platform when I decided to run for governor. And why is that? Because we saw the results of COVID, right? We were the first out and the last to come back in because of that lack of diversification. And the more diversified we are, the stronger we are. And, so we have resiliency in times of emergency, or just in what we deal with on a daily basis. And is sports the answer? Yeah, in my opinion, it is the answer, because we've seen the success of the Raiders, we've seen the success of the Knights and the Aces, and soon to be the Las Vegas Athletics. And through that process, and there was always naysayers in that process. We start talking about public money, start talking about funding stadiums, and all those things that go along with it. And we've seen to be on top of all those naysayers. And that creates its own momentum, because that's what people are interested in now, right? They're interested in entertainment and the ability to diversify their experience when they come into Las Vegas or anywhere in the state, as far as entertainment, and sports is the alternate avenue of entertainment. And unfortunately, anytime you have some kind of progressive ideas on expanding the economy and the resiliency of any community, because of the 40 million visitors that are coming here and looking to diversify their experience, right? I mean, it's not strictly based off population. As compared to LA, their success is based off their indigenous population. Well, here it's based off our visitor population, and everybody wanting that actual experience through the whole entertainment venue. And I anticipate significant success in every one of those aspects. And you're probably going to ask me, well, what the hell's going on with the NBA? Well, I don't know.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I don't know. So I had the luxury of having a conversation with Adam Silver a few weeks ago. And you probably saw the pictures in the paper with me with Magic Johnson, talking about the NBA. And none of this is under the cloak of secrecy, right? There's people that are interested. They're hearing rumors about expansion ability in the NBA, and in the anticipation that the NBA will be very successful within the Las Vegas Valley. And so they've reached out to the governor, hey, why not have a friendship and let the governor know that we're interested as part of the process. No, the governor doesn't have influence in the process, right? And that's what people were thinking through the, whatever their beliefs are in those conversations. But the important piece is they were saying, hey, does the governor support this NBA? Are we going to have headwinds when we come in here and try to bring a team into the valley and go forward? No, I'm absolutely supportive. So you've got to start at peg one, right? And so, yeah. So I've been talking to different groups, and And one of the things that people didn't understand in this conversation with Adam Silver, I'm sorry I'm filibustering a little bit here, but the ability is to know exactly what the process is. And then you get into the conversations about arenas and all those nuances that go along with it. So.
Do you have any breaking news to share with
No.
us about? Okay. I tried.
Actually,
you
I
guys.
don't. I have no breaking news.
No hints of anything. Okay.
All right. So with the A's,
I'm sorry, Todd.
with the A's coming to town, there's a chance that you're going to have to throw out a first pitch at some point. And one of the most stressful things I did in the last couple of years, I threw a first pitch out at the Aviators game. It's a lot of stress to get it to home plate. You feel confident when you get to do that?
I just did that recently myself. It was during the police fire baseball game at the Aviator Stadium.
So I know you've been working hard to streamline and reduce regulations here. That we all appreciate that for certain. And I'm just curious as to what you see as has that helped us to attract? Are we now a more attractive state for people to relocate to and bring jobs to Nevada?
Well, let's back up a little bit, Tyler. I think we were an attractive state even before that, right? So we talk about our tax environment and the ability to have a stable regulatory environment, but so we've always been attracted to the actual environment, and the location, and as far as transportation, logistics, and everything else that goes along with our location, our viability as a business environment. But more importantly is when we come into hard times, and we figure out, well, why are we having hard times? Okay, it could be the Washington D.C., or it could be just what we're doing here locally. And I'm the governor of the state of Nevada. I'm not the governor of Washington D.C. Okay, I want that cleared up for this room right here, right? So I have eyes on the state of Nevada continually, and that's my priority. And when I noticed when I took office, and I had been approached by several people in this room, the subject matter experts in small business, was what is the government doing to hinder your success? All right, and where they immediately default is licensing, okay, permitting, and regulations. All right, so it's not necessarily the tax environment, it's those three specific things. I said, well, what can we do to better that? And there's a lot of cumbersome regulations that are outdated, or they're overburdensome, and they're a detriment to the success or the forward moving of a business. Can you get engaged in that process, Governor? Yes, absolutely. So day one, I issued an executive order for each one of my departments to evaluate a minimum of 10 regulations to bring forward for repeal or evaluation. You have the option of modifications, and you have the option of leave it alone, Governor, right? So that's where I learned in my infancy as the governor is your executive orders are not all encompassing, they're not all powerful. And I said, oh, shoot, that's a big process. But I'm proud to say, so we originally had 1,200 in the tranche of regulations that were identified for evaluation, and then through a 3.5-year process, we've actually either modified or repealed over 900 of those.
Wow.
Over 900 of those. But even beyond that, when we talk about the MBT, your modified business tax, we lowered that by 15% here recently, and you have to take a constant look at everything and every aspect of the business environment to ensure that we have success.
Las Vegas needs businesses that are growing the economy, creating jobs, and investing in the future. The Vegas Chamber helps new, small, and large businesses reach their financial and civic goals. The Vegas Chamber connects companies with each other to expand their business relationship. The Vegas Chamber stands up for employers, provides access to lawmakers, and cultivates growth and prosperity. And we supply needed products like health insurance and a 401k program. Simply put, no one gets you plugged in like the Vegas Chamber. We are your partner and advocate in this ever-changing business environment. Join today to get plugged in. Visit vegaschamber.com to learn more. Hello, I'm Mary Beth Seawald, President and CEO of the Vegas Chamber. As we approach the upcoming primary election, I want to highlight the importance of staying informed and participating in the voting process, especially when it comes to decisions that impact our business community and regional economy. The Vegas Chamber has announced its first round of endorsements for key statewide and local races. These are positions that directly influence the future of Southern Nevada. Our endorsements are guided by a thoughtful process led by our Government Affairs Committee. This year, the committee members interviewed more than 100 candidates before making its recommendations. Endorsements are based on several key factors. Number one is the candidates must have an understanding of small business issues. They must have a commitment to not increasing fees or regulations on businesses. They also must have fiscal knowledge and responsibility. And last, a clear vision for Southern Nevada's future. We encourage all voters to take the time to learn about the candidates, make a plan to vote, and keep an eye out for the Vegas Chamber's voter guide for additional insights. Here are just a few important dates and reminders for you. Early voting is May 23rd through June 5th, and Election Day is June 9th. Clark County offers flexible voting options too, including early voting sites and Election Day vote centers. At the Vegas Chamber, we believe informed and engaged voters are essential to a strong business environment and a thriving community. Thank you so much for staying engaged, and we encourage you to make your voice heard this election season.
There was a bill, Senate Bill 431, that you signed that is called the Government Modernization and Efficiency Act, and you moved state workers back into the office, and now we've got, I understand it's about a $2.4 million fund in the rainy day fund, and I'm just curious.
2.4?
That's what I was told.
I think maybe there's a hidden question in there.
I wanted you to
Do
feather
I
it out
plan
there.
on raising taxes?
Yeah.
No. The answer is no. I'm not planning on raising taxes. And the reason why I say that is because I think there's always a different way of doing business in government. One, that's my position going forward. I think what we can do is make smaller government utilize the funds that we currently have available more effective and efficiently going forward. Whatever program that it may entail.
Ultimately
right?
protecting taxpayers,
Yeah,
I would guess. Yeah.
And the other thing is there's a lot of fear in government with employees, which is necessary, right? You never want to have to get rid of an employee, right? But there's also programs that aren't efficient or they're not necessary anymore, and you can either reclassify, reallocate, move, or actually get rid of different programs that are very expensive. And one of those I'll talk about, which has a huge effect on business, is boards and commissions, okay? I'm responsible for over 320 boards and commissions. Wow. I'm responsible on an annual basis of appointing over 1,800 individuals to represent those boards and commissions. Some of those boards and commissions haven't met for 2 years. Wow. Against their statutory obligations, right? There's full-time employees attached to those boards and commissions, all right? But there's also other people out there, some of them are in this room, that support those boards and commissions, all right? And we in government have not taken an objective, practical view in evaluating each one of those and their viability and their importance. Some of them are old and antiquated and not necessary, but we, in partnership with the legislature and the executive branch, we have to take a really objective look at that and make us more effective and efficient in that space. Because sometimes those boards and commissions are detrimental to small business, right? They come up with some arbitrary idea and they said, hey, you got to have 3 sinks in your hair salon versus 2, right? And then why are we doing that? Because we're a board and commission. We got to do something, right? So it's important that we take a very objective, pragmatic view at each one of those things. I talked about education. There will always be some aspect of education in everything I do. as your governor, but more importantly, what is the priority going into the next session, and that would be healthcare. All right, how do we develop the public and private partnerships to expand upon the healthcare environment within the state? You know, as I'm traveling and going through all the nuances of being the governor and now into a campaign, the most constant question I get asked is, what the hell are you doing about healthcare? We're here talking to the Las Vegas Chamber, but more importantly is the rural environment is suffering significantly in the state of Nevada, and fortunately, the administration in DC was able to grant us $180 million in rural healthcare development. And that's going to be a huge benefit within what they're trying to achieve out in that space through telemedicine, infrastructure, provider reimbursement, all those different aspects in healthcare. And how can we develop a more robust, a more solid quality environment in healthcare? And you know, day one, when I got involved in this occupation was our providers. You know, the inability to get an appointment, the inability to receive quality secondary medical care outside of your primary care within the state of Nevada, and that was through we got our chancellor here, and that's through our graduate folks graduating from med school and keeping them here in their residency programs and putting, what can the state do to inject money into that program and form a solution to help the chancellor keep those doctors here once we have educated them and spent the money on them to see them go some other jurisdiction to keep them here within our environment.
Switching gears over to education, education is a big part of what draws companies to, and housing. I mean, there are several things, but how do you think about K through 12 moving forward, especially as we think about the next legislative session?
Right, great question. Obviously, it'll be front of mind for me because I've talked about it more than once, and you know, I talked about it even here a little bit earlier, how important it is. And it's not just to me; it's to the success of any state, and you know, the foundation and the economic drivers within a state. And more importantly, is K through 12. The key is at the end, right? Upon graduation, are our kids college ready? Or are they career ready? One or the other. And the answer to that question is no. And the most important piece in that K through 12 is K through 3. The foundational start of an individual kid and their ability to be successful into the future. If a kid is behind at the 3rd grade, they will never be successful for the rest of their career in the education system. And so we implemented, you know, read by 3, the ability to hold a kid back until they are proficient in the ability to read at the 3rd grade level before they continue to move forward. All those things matter. It's part of a 3-legged stool, all right? And unless they're all 3 not operating together, you're going to have failure. And so as a result, I'll give you statewide numbers. We've had a 4% increase in high school graduation on an annual basis. That's in 3.5 years. And we've increased the 1 stars to 2 star school environment by 28% in the state and 27% here in Clark County. What the hell does that mean? 1 star, 2 star? It means your school rating, how poor your kids are doing. Okay, 1 star is terrible. All right, 5 star is fantastic. And the ability to transfer that environment from a 1 star to 2 stars is monumental. And to be able to do it at 28% is monumental. And I think you should be applauding for that. So.
Yeah. Great. I know that it's no surprise that public safety and crime is something that's really near and dear to your heart. I know that also that crime is actually trending down in 2025, and now in first quarter 2026, crime is trending down in most of the major categories. What do you foresee in the future? Do you have other ideas about crime? Because that is a huge impact on small businesses, you know, the smash and grab stuff and all of that. So what do you see moving forward as we already plan for the 2027 session?
Yeah, crime, as you can imagine, crime is very important to me. I don't think there's nobody that's more of a subject matter expert in fighting crime than me. okay? I'll be a little arrogant in that space because of the experience and the ability to have knowledge and research and everything else I've done through my life in that space. In order to affect behavior in that, there's got to be consequences. There's no other simpler answer to dealing with crime. There has to be consequences for bad acts, okay? And I think crime is the #1 influencer on economic success in any community, in any state, in any neighborhood. The ability to curtail it, the ability to manage it and do something about it on a continual basis, and to be able to give law enforcement the tools for success. And that has been a priority of myself moving forward. That was in my platform when I decided to run for governor, to do something about crime. Because if you were to graph crime on an XY axis, you know, if it's going like this, that's good for the economy. If it's going like this, it's terrible for crime, right? And we were doing this as a state, right? And so through that process, for 2 sessions and 2 special sessions, we've taken numerous bites of that elephant being crime, and minimizing the detriment of crime through that process. So, but then you mentioned here recently in the special session, yes, we finally got a very omnibus, comprehensive crime bill through that I think on particular crimes that have been ignored for several years, that will have a huge effect on that crime rate that you talked about. But as a result of all those, all that time of taking small bites of the elephant, you talked about the crime rate, right? So to quantify it, we're down 10% in violent crime in the state of Nevada across the board. We're down 16% in property crime across the board in the state of Nevada. We're down almost 8% in domestic violence / elder abuse crime across the board. Huge numbers. But that doesn't happen overnight. That happens from all those bites of that elephant through time. And so it's become a priority. And as we become aware of bad legislation that has unintended consequences, it's important that we do something about it. And when you ask about 2027, is there going to be an omnibus crime bill? No. I don't anticipate that because we had huge success through this time now. But I think there's some individual particular issues that we're dealing with, especially in the parole and probation field, and the ability to deal with individuals incarcerated and penance for reoffending and things like that, that we can make some adjustments in. And then additionally, what's happening in the prison environment and how we deal with those certain populations in dealing with crime.
Okay, well, Governor, on behalf of all
Hey,
of us...
nobody applauded over that reduction in crime.
I think we should.
So,
We should.
and, you know, it's not me. I gotta be fully transparent on that. I'm up here now talking about the actual laws. The important piece is the people that enforce it. And I believe Las Vegas Metro and North Las Vegas and Henderson and all those law enforcement agencies have done a fantastic job through the last 3.5 years.
I believe my city needs leadership that understands how to grow our economy, support businesses, and deliver real results for our working families.
North Las Vegas was in its infancy of its recovery from the fiscal challenges that we had coming out of the Great Recession. And through that experience, I quickly learned from Mayor Lee at the time, and Mayor Goins-Brown, and Councilman Churchio, and Councilman Barone, of what it took to make a city great.
But we have to require that the development that goes in, that it's benefits, real benefits for our communities and lasting benefits, that it has jobs for our community.
That was utilities, infrastructure, and private and public partnership and investment. With those things, we've been able to literally turn 7,000 developable land acres into commerce, into industry, into development.
Cox has been a valuable supporter of this community for more than 25 years. We're here for you, your home, your business, your life. With Cox, you can do more of what you love every day. From Allegiant Stadium to your home, when the game is on the line, Cox Fiber helps everyone enjoy a winning experience. Extraordinary speed, exceptional reliability. You can count on Cox to keep you connected. And now with Cox Mobile, you can take that excellence on the go. We're here for your business too. With the technology you need to take on whatever's next, our reliable network has been critical to the growth plan of businesses from coast to coast. At Cox Business, helping you succeed is what drives us. We're proud to help businesses everywhere reach their customers and their goals. Our Cox Media team strives to be the full-service advertising partner you've always wanted. With over 30 years of media and advertising expertise, Cox Media can be the team behind your marketing success, so you can get back to doing more of what you love every day, bringing the world to your door, or your door to the world, and all at the speed of light.
I'm John Waldron. I'm the CEO of the LGBTQ+ Center of Las Vegas. We've been in Las Vegas serving the community since 1993 and at our home on Maryland Parkway in downtown since 2013. The core purpose and the mission of the center is to serve as a safe and affirming home for the LGBTQ+ community where we can live as our authentic selves and find chosen family and build community, find advocacy, and all of our health and wellness all in one place. The LGBTQ+ Center of Las Vegas, or the Center as we're known in the community, has been rapidly growing, and we are planning to continue that growth to not only expand what we're doing across Southern Nevada, but also throughout the state of Nevada. And so we're excited to expand our health and wellness and expand our community building so that we're truly reaching all of Southern Nevada and even into the rurals across the state. We joined the Vegas Chamber because we knew that there was a need to have our community represented in an official way, but also we knew that there was an opportunity for us to connect with business leaders across the community as well as political leaders and other community folks to be able to contribute and to be part of the conversation and to help our community be recognized as contributors to the local business economy. Join the Vegas Chamber today and get plugged in.
What an incredible and insightful event. We'd like to thank Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo for joining us today and sharing his insights on the future of Nevada. And of course, a big thank you to all the business leaders and community leaders who made this Business Power Luncheon such a huge success. For 115 years, the Vegas Chamber has been cultivating growth and prosperity, and we invite you to get plugged in to the power of the Vegas Chamber. Join today. I'm Mary Beth Seawald. We'll see you next time on another edition of Taking Care of Business.